Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of In the Huddle. Minus Chris Volpe this week. He's taking a well-deserved vacation with his family. And we've got myself, Robert Cain, owner and operator of Automation Invasion, a marketing company designed specifically for the home services industry, in particular lawn landscape, tree care. But we do it all. I mean, business is business. Our primary objective is to enhance your marketing with data visibility and integrated automation. We're also joined by Jason Nunemacher, um, entrepreneur and growth growth manager extraordinaire. Has helped to grow. I believe it's four tree service businesses here in Arizona, correct?
Correct.
To a revenue of $27 million annually. And we're going to talk a little bit about today. We're going to talk to Jason about his experience with growing those companies, managing those companies, a lot of the hurdles that he's run into in that process, and some of the major milestones that he encountered along the way, where he knew either we need to shift gears or we're not going to accelerate, and then what those milestones were that were basically road signs to say, hey, we're on our way to scale, like we are growing, we're doing everything right, and just talking through some of those challenges. And so Jason, maybe we can start off with a little bit of background information, what it is that you're doing today, why you're doing it, what where you come from, and talk through a little bit about your experiences within the industry.
Yeah, so where I'm at today is helping other business owners, particularly in the home service space, and to grow their own business and basically make more money and get the freedom that they wanted out of their business. And so that's something that that I wanted to do, and I started as an employee, not as a business owner, but was able to work myself to that point. And had a mentor and a coach along the way, and realized that was really the catalyst that helped me, because you don't know what you don't know. And so when you get that lift and you get that information that you didn't have, and you get some help and accountability to put those things in place, so you're making the right moves at the right time, and not abandoning those things. I mean, being an entrepreneur, even a high level manager, is a lonely place sometimes. Like you go home and talk to your spouse about it, but they don't understand really. You talk to your friends, but they're not in the same position you are. They really can't give a whole lot of feedback and understand how to help you. And so getting myself to somebody who's been there, done that before, and then in a community of other people that are doing that thing, was a real game changer for me. And so that's become my why, is that I had that for me, and I want to be able to help other people do that same thing, because I think there's a lot of people that could accomplish a lot of things, but they're just stuck and they don't know where to start, what to do next, and they just feel like I felt, number of years ago, just that stuck place and just frustrated, and man, is this worth it? Should I do something else? And especially as an entrepreneur, sometimes you feel like I own a job. I don't own a business, right? And sometimes it's less paying than if you had a job. So, but I think having that knowledge base, having the structure and systems to be able to offer and help people fast track that, and to save a lot of heartache, save a lot of money, save a lot of trouble, and see opportunity. That's kind of my why. I had help, and I'd like to help the next person.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So, how did you get into the tree industry? How did you get into the tree care industry? Why trees? And like, what did that progression look like from going from that employee level to taking a broader role within the companies that you're working with? And then on top of that, like how did the expansion happen?
Yeah. So we have 30 minutes, so I don't know if I'll
Right.
do, yeah, but I'll try to give you the high level. But so funny enough, I was doing debt collections. I think I was like 23, 24 years old, doing debt collections, and doing really well. We were at a company where we were making really good money, and worked with heavy hitters, like the management didn't have to ask people to leave, like the employees would run people off because if you just weren't good, like these were A players. And I know it sounds bad, but like debt collections with sales,
Yeah.
you just didn't look at it that way. Um, but what happened was a friend of mine in church had a tree service business that they wanted to groom a manager, and they'd gone through one person that just it became the business that was a little bit too much for them, right? They're wearing all the hats and they needed that help. And so they wanted to find somebody they could trust. And they'd barely moved out of their garage in this little building, running a couple trucks, trying to do fertilization. I think they were doing like, one day a week or, 2 days every 2 weeks, whatever that looked like. And so I said, yeah, I was pretty burnt out from the game of doing debt collections, and um, it was a pay cut for sure. It was definitely a big pay cut, but I was ready to just make that change, make that move. And I actually started as an appointment center. Like it just started from ground level, like setting appointments for estimates. And then as I learned those things, then I started moving towards scheduling crews, dispatching, collecting money. And in a quick 2-year period, I was the general manager of the company. And the uh, the wife was able to leave the company. She was a big part of that company, but she was able to go home and be with her kids that were growing up, and put a lot of faith and trust in me to be able to run the operation and grow the business. And in the 2.5 years that I was there, we grew from being that little small company to the second largest in Arizona. And attribute that to um, one, just whatever innate abilities I had, the training that they gave me, and then also I brought in some players from that collection agency that I knew that were good people and could do well in sales or help me in management. And as a team, we just made some really good strides and changes, and we're able to grow that. And then from there, my one of the guys I brought in wanted to go start his own tree company, and I had actually left to help my father-in-law with his landscape business. And I was a little bit young and naive and was like, I don't want to step on the toes of people that taught me everything and compete against them. Wrong thinking at the time, but so I said no. 6 months later, so I partnered with somebody else who I had also brought in that company. And 6 months later, I ended up joining their team to help them build Tree Pros out here in Arizona. And so that was back in 2007. And today they're the largest residential tree service company in Arizona. And I recently left them, probably about fully about, I don't know, 8-10 months ago. And during that last 2.5, 3 years, the owner of that company partnered with me on another tree service company that we started building together. And so now I have that tree company that we've built in a short time. It'll do at the time of this recording, we'll do about 4.5 to 5 million this year in revenue. And
Awesome.
it runs pretty passive without me, just with the systems and processes we put in place, and having the right people, and so that I can do this thing, which is my passion.
Awesome. You touched a little bit on getting that perfect team and operating with A players, right? Like what does that perfect team model look like to you for any business owner that's, trying to build that team around them, trying to scale and bring in those key players that they can trust to help grow the business and see the vision that they've built for their company.
Yeah, so I think first place I start, and I think a lot of people don't start here because they think about, okay, some people think about core values, some people don't, right? And they start interviewing people, and they're looking for people that fit, the culture of their company or what have you. But really, for me, it starts with there's me leadership before you can have we leadership. So who am I as a leader? Who am I as a team player first? And my thought, I can look back. I didn't know. I couldn't articulate what it was back then. But even growing up I worked in the restaurant industry when I was younger. Just just servant leadership, you know, and I wouldn't have coined that, but like I felt like my job was to make everybody's job easier, you know, and to help people succeed. And so just taking that me leadership and becoming, okay, how am I showing up as a leader, as a teammate, as someone that helps, that's going to help me um, find those people, because if I'm not, then why should they be, you know? And so I think it starts there. And then it starts with if you have a partner or not. Like, so for us at Tree Pros, it was, even though it wasn't an owner, it was really a partnership, because that's just how I operated. I thought like an owner, and it didn't matter that I didn't have the equity position or even maybe the pay. But I got in there and worked as a partner. And so when you have the dynamic that Mike and had, you know, even though he had another partner, it was really like he was the visionary and I was the, what in EOS terms, the integrator, right, or the executor. And that just really worked well if you have that right combination, you know. And so you have somebody that's out, um, they have the big ideas and the, you know, the culture piece of it, and even sometimes the promotion and selling side of it. And then you have somebody that can execute, can look at that vision and say, hey, I understand how we can build the roadmap to actually get where you're going. And building up that relationship and the level of trust that you have as you work with each other. You know, he was really the perfect visionary partner for us, you know, on a lot of levels, because he was willing to let go as I built trust and was competent. Like, it wasn't just, if I wasn't competent, made, you know, had a winning percentage, so to speak, with things that I was executing, then obviously that trust wouldn't have been given. But because I was able to do that, and there's some people that still, they just won't give up the reign of their company, right? They won't, even if it's, even if they suffer as a result. But him being
Yeah.
willing to see the big picture and say, hey, I see where you're taking us, and I see that you have the, you know, the right intentions about the company, and you really are after the vision that I'm after, and getting that accomplished. You know, he would, over time, I just, you know, it was very autonomous relationship where I was just able to do what was best for the company, and I won more than I lost.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if anybody's watching this podcast, you know, the majority of the people that we interact with are those entrepreneurs, are those visionaries. And I think it can be difficult to establish somebody within your business that you can trust at that integrator level. Like, what are some things that like visionaries should look for in that key person to help them with the general operations of the business so that they can do what they do best, right? Which is like that high level, growing the business, um, you know, keeping the team focused on that big picture vision. Like, what are some strengths and pitfalls to look out for somebody within that position?
Yeah, so I think one of the pitfalls and one of the mistakes that I see is visionaries. They're in DIS. They're usually, you know, DI personalities or I personality, right? And so they like to attract like people. You do not want a like person as your partner to run the business. You want somebody completely opposite, right? And as much as that may seem like at the beginning there's friction there, because as a result, because you don't think alike, you don't operate alike, that's what you need. Like, that's I needed Mike as much as he needed me. Like, it was reversed. Like, because I'll want everything. I'm a very system guy, process guy, right? Logistics, schedule, you know, all that stuff. And so I would want to perfect everything. Well, if all we did was perfect everything, and we didn't have that push, then we probably wouldn't have, you know, we wouldn't go very far at all. But if he didn't have me, he'd probably go really fast and fizzle out, right? And so you have that dynamic. So I think look for that opposite. Look for the person that um that isn't the same as you, that complements you. Um and the other thing is make sure they are, you know, a culture fit. Um and figure out what are the people you want beyond honest and integrity. Like, those are pay to play. Like, if you don't have integrity, you're not honest, you probably need to be behind bars. Right. So that's just a
Right.
pay to play. So to me, when I see people with those kind of core values in their company, it's like, okay, that you haven't pushed enough. Like, you're just coming up with, you know, things that you haven't really pushed to see what is the identity of my company and of our team. So make sure that that dynamic works as well. And then somebody that you guys can be on the same page. Can you be on the same page? Can they see my vision, and can they articulate road mapping how to get there? Do they know how to, okay, see the end from the beginning and reverse engineer that and say, hey, this is how we're going to get there. And then I think lastly, you have to have the courage. You have to hire someone with the courage to oppose you and not be insubordinate. Like they have to have that, balance and that savviness of, I was never an insubordinate person, but I wasn't a yes man, and you didn't pay me to be a yes man. You didn't have me there to be a yes man, but I was never insubordinate, but I definitely was passionate about what I thought it was going to take to hit the mark that you said you want to hit. And so I think that's what you're looking for. If you can find that person that has the courage to not just roll over every time, and because you're the visionary, you're the founder, you're whatever. Um, no, I'm going to say what I think out of the greater good of the company, not out of because I want my way. Like it's not an ego play. It's a, hey, this is where we say we want to go, and for the greater good of the business, this is what we should do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think like the core values example and the vision statement and the company mission, like those things can seem very cliche, but so important as you're looking to grow your business to really define that truthfully as a business owner and really measure your team against those core values, right? Because it's just like what you said, like integrity, on like yes, like you have to, you have to represent all of those things, but what is it going to take for us to grow this business and build a culture that is different from everybody else, but also like I'm going to be able to measure employee performance based off of those core values, right? Like how can I really create some smart metrics around that to hold people accountable and continue to grow the business. One question that I had, I think as a lot of business owners are moving through various stages of scaling, like I know like these hard numbers of like 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, like those are like huge milestones for people to overcome. Like what has been your strategy and what are some of the things that you've implemented, building a $10 million annual revenue business and now building another one and starting to see those same milestones again? Like what are some of those important things that you're putting into place along the way to help balance sales with output?
Yeah, so a list of things. One of the things is and I identify, business and sports, as very similar things, right? And I loved basketball growing up. I like when I was younger, I played every day, and so that's one I typically think about. And you think about the greats of any sport, right? And you hear about they had to be mentally tough, right? And so I think the first thing is being mentally tough um, in your business. And so I don't listen to the news. Like I'm not here to hear about whether the economy is good or bad. I'm going to decide whether my economy is good or bad. I'm going to trust what I'm doing and taking the action I need to take, and I'm going to trust that it works out. And I'm not going to let something talk me out of that, and I'm not going to act like there isn't anything going on. Like that would be stupid. But at the same time, I'm just not going to accept it fully, because if I don't want to just give up control, because if I can influence it and change it. And the other thing to think about is most everybody takes that position. So if you don't, think of how much better you're going to do in an economy like that against your competition, people that are retreating while you're contracting, because you have a mindset to say, I'm going to push through this and not um, take a step back. So I think that mental toughness for one. Number two, like ignore negativity. Like I don't want it in my family. I don't want it in my friends I hang around with. It like if you're starting to gossip about people or talk about things, like it just drives me nuts. Like I don't want to be around that. I don't, if it's true or not true,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It just it's not the place I want to live in. I want to live in a place of optimistic belief, trust. And that, to me, that's served me really well. And then lastly is just, I said it before, is you don't know what you don't know. And so self-development has been a huge part for me. And so personally, I've spent close to $500,000 over the last 25 years on self-development, that out of my own pocket. Company paid for some stuff along the way, but that was something that I wanted, because there wasn't, I didn't have that information. I had to go find it in all these different areas. And I knew that it would pay off at some point. And so that just gave me a deeper understanding. And the good thing about that is that when you do get around people that have, done trial and error, went and paid for the information, they can then bring that at a faster pace, more organized way. Because I'd go to this seminar and I'd go to this book, and this book and all these different things. Well, then you start collecting all that data and information that you can put together in a sequence that can actually help your team, help your company, but then you can help others as you're successful and prove those concepts out.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. When it comes to like schools of thought for business owners at various levels of their business, like is there anything that kind of stands out as sort of like a guiding light, as like an operation manual to continue to scale? I know that there's a plethora of, and like just the market saturated with self-help books and things like that, but what have you found to be like an integral model in growth of these companies?
Yeah, so I think, and you're right, like there's a lot of people writing a lot of things, and I think you pick one, and you pick a guide that's been where you want to go, and so you have the confidence, that they can help you get there. And so I don't think, I like EOS, we adopted EOS, but I don't think it's the end all be all. I've read other books along the same that gave me some ideas to add to that, or to just do it a little bit different. And so, but I think at the beginning, like, you need to just pick one, do that, fully implement that. But if you're changing all the time, we still do EOS, but I mean, we've been doing that for 9 years now. But I didn't look for any other thing to add to that, or maybe see if I could do something better, until we fully established that. And like, okay, we learned that, we're operating in that way. And so I think to me, that's the ticket, is pick one thing, and then pick a guide that you trust, that's been where you want to go, and has proven out, the things that they're talking about. There's a lot of coaches out there, even in the EOS world, that, went through the certification, read the book, and now they're a coach. But what business have they built? What have they done in your area, um, that they can look to and say, hey, I proved these concepts out, and they can take their experience along with the tools and models of something like that and put it into place. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, as business owners, we have to wear multiple hats. And I mean, that assists with that servant leader type of mentality, because you get to grow with the business, you get to sit in multiple seats. You have to eat crow at times, right? As Mike would say, when it comes to, accepting when we've done things wrong and what we don't know, and finding the right people to put them in place to be able to help us to continue to grow that. um, when we talk about your model, your coaching model, the teams that you work with, the types of businesses that you're looking to grow with, like what does that look like, and what's your value add aside from obviously your experience? What could people come to expect when it comes to working with you as a coach and a mentor?
yeah, so I think the first thing is I try to do is I seek to understand. So one of the first books I read was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And one of those habits is seek first to understand. And so I want to understand and know, where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish, and what are the gaps, to see, can I even be of assistance? Is what I've done and the tools that I have, does it fit to where I can fill in those gaps for you, and give you something that you couldn't do necessarily as fast on your own. with less trouble and spending less money. So the first thing we do is just look at the business. What are you trying to accomplish, and what are the gaps? And then from there, then we make a plan. What's the plan? What's the thing that's going to move the needle the most? Typically, I try to find what's a quick win financially to pay for the service that you're getting. Because if we can just find that additional money to just pay for this right up front, then that knocks that out of the way. You can continue um, doing that a lot easier. And so those are some of the things that I look for. Um, and so we're going to look at, hey, what's your marketing look like? What's your sales look like? What's your operations and people look like? What does your financials look like? What does cash flow look like? And so we're gonna look at every one of those areas. What's your product line look like? What a lot of people don't look at that in just really analyzing, hey, what products should you get rid of? What products should you do more of? What products should you add that you don't have? Um, and that's another place that I work with people on. Um, and so just analyzing, hey, what's important and where do you want to go and what's top of mind for you, and then just helping you execute that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Um, I know we're running up on time, but I think a big question that I have is, as you're working with a lot of business owners and even operating in your own business and kind of seeing what people are doing out there today, like what's the one thing that business owners should stop doing today that you're seeing as like a trend um, that will help to elevate their business right away? Like, is there one magic bullet or one thing that you notice a trend out there that you're seeing people fall into the same like pitfall that is going to help them to accelerate their business?
Wow, that's tough.
That's a hard hitting question right there.
It's like I think one that so I have two things top of mind. One is stop complaining about the thing that you're not doing anything about. Like if all you do is complain about where you're at, but you're not taking any steps to make it better, like
Yeah.
just it's not
Yep.
serving you, it's not benefiting you, it's not making anything better. And so I think that's number one. Number two is stop doing it alone. Like nobody did anything of any significance by themselves. Like just look at the major corporations, Disney, Steve Jobs, and Apple. Like there were people that helped them along the way, whether that was a partnership in their business or whether it was an outside guide. Like just don't go it alone. You don't have to go it alone. There's other people that have been there, done that, or are they can bring energy along the way. They're in the same, like being in a community of other business owners is a huge benefit. And so being aligned and talking to people and sharing wins and sharing best practices and sharing struggles, even, just don't go it alone. So those are the two things top of mind that I would say people should stop doing. And that's it.
Yeah. No, I see that. I feel that as well. Like if I spend an hour listening to a business audiobook or, get together with a group of other like-minded individuals that are trying to grow their business, it's energizing, and I feel like your business can suck the life out of you. Like you can get gassed super quick, regardless of what industry that you're working in. And being a part of a community, I feel like is such a huge benefit. And it really helps to energy begets energy, right? And when more than one person assembles together, like it's magic, right? Like it really helps out. So I appreciate that. Anything else to close that we missed, or anything that you want to add?
Um, no, I think just the other thing I thought of right after that on a third thing was just like execute. A lot of times, even when you do learn something, and I've been guilty of this in the past, is I'll learn, but then I don't execute, right? And so someone taught me the idea of do a little, or learn a little, do a little. right? And so, but it's easy to, man, I need to learn that next thing, and say, okay, I learned it, but now am I taking the action to actually implement it and put it in place? So just do the work. There's no easy way. There's no magic, like you said, magic bullet, right? There is no
Yeah.
magic. It's just self-discipline and
Yep.
work, and don't, like, take time. I know we're going a little over time, but real quick, just take time, schedule on your calendar a clarity break. Schedule a time where you just think and you zoom out of the business, because it's so easy to get caught and stuck in the weeds. And if you never think about, hey, where are we really at? Where are we going? Are the things that I'm doing and the things that we're doing taking us on the right path towards that? Then you're just gonna be grinding and not sure if you're getting where you're supposed to be going. And I think you need that mental break and that way to just zoom out of the business and look at it, and just some think time.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Great advice. Well, thank you again for giving us some insight and clarity into your timeline and your background. I think it's super helpful, and I mean, I lean on you for a lot of advice when it comes to different things, and you've helped me tremendously over the last 10 years since we've known each other. So I really appreciate you. And appreciate everybody that was able to watch today, and tune in next week where we are going to be talking about something different, whether it's automation, operations, marketing, sales. Chris should be back next week, and we'll bring you guys some more content. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks. We'll see ya.
Thanks, Jason.